I hope the tea was rejuvenating enough and we can get down to some serious discussions. To begin with, I'd like to, they've already been introduced once, but we have in Mr. Ravi Shankar, we have a person who's a farmer at heart, and he is contributing to the upliftment of that community and trying to make things, better in terms of not only livelihoods, but their earning capacity and their usage of technology to make the world more sustainable, not only from the profitability angle, but also from the climate side of the things. On his left side, we have Ramki. I'll call you that. I hope you don't mind that. Ram for short. Jai Shri Ram, everyone. Okay. He was actually instrumental. Most of us, we bought these crafts item, say handicrafts from say villages or from touristy places and all. But the people who make them, they get not even probably 1/10 of what we actually end up buying as tourists. So he was trying to make a difference over there, but then he realized, hey, there's something more that has to be done. And a lot of capital has to go in, and someone else providing capital may be a challenge. So his current venture is all about peer-to-peer lending and, arming this community not only with capital, but add-ons also to actually, come out a shade better than what they are already at. In one line or two lines, how would you like to tell about yourself or what you do? So Ramki, please.
Sure. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on this panel. So, we started way back in 2008, and we in fact completed 16 years yesterday. So, when we started Rangde, the idea was very simple. The idea was to see if we could, address the multi-dimensional problem of poverty by making credit more affordable and accessible. So that was a one-line, statement, and that's how the journey started. And to do that, we took inspiration from Mohammad Yunus' work in Bangladesh, where he spoke about beautifully in this wonderful book called How to Create a World Without Poverty. And some of you, if you've not read it, please do read it. In the book, he talks about how credit should be designed and delivered in a manner which is sustainable for the communities. Now, that's very important.
Very true, very true.
And we felt that in India, the interest rates being charged were very high. That was one part of the problem. The other part of the problem was the whole service design when it comes to delivering credit. So there was absolutely no choice for the communities when it came to borrowing. For instance, the communities could not choose how much they want to borrow, when they want to borrow, for how long they want to borrow, and on what terms they would like to repay. In other words, the whole choice architecture was blatantly missing in the ecosystem. And what we did was essentially that. So we have a peer-to-peer lending platform, which is regulated by the Reserve Bank of India. We make credit affordable because we raise this capital from individuals, and we give the communities the complete choice architecture. So when you combine affordability with choice, it becomes a game changer. And that's exactly what we are trying to do at Rangde.
So it is personalization of credit that essentially allows the availability of capital at the borrower's terms.
Yes.
When he needs it, for how long he needs it, and when and how, in what installments he wants to repay it.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. I'm like, today is the day of personalization. You talk about personalization of cars, of this thing and all, but credit, yes, I think you have struck a very important chord, and I think it should go a long way. And any support you need from any of us, I think we are most happy to be
Thank you.
there for you. So So very grand initiative, and kudos to you for that, and best wishes for many other things. Uh, so Dr. Ravi Shankar, how would you define your work? I'm like, I know, but in 2-3 lines, if you have to define it. I know we are not doing it justice, but आप अगर कैसे करेंगे?
Yeah, first and foremost, I want to thank the organizers and the host, and thank you, Manish, Ram, my good friends. I will describe in one sentence and make it better and keep it in 30 seconds. It is at the confluence of data, technology, and agriculture that I think I know 1% of what is the ocean. Yeah, and when I say agriculture, I mean, I've spent 25 years looking at all aspects at the grassroots level. Yeah, so this is what I would describe myself as.
Okay. I mean, again, if anyone of us have seen, who all have seen Interstellar? Okay. Now so the premise basically is that, the soil has gone so bad that the fields do not produce any food. And if we don't take care right now, we'll have to look upward space. And that's why people like Elon Musk are, taking in tons of investments. How many of us have heard of doomsday clock? Okay, I see a few hands over there. So, doomsday clock was started around in June 1947. And it started with, I think, 7 minutes before midnight, that the world will come to an end. And every year in January it is reset. The furthest it has been away is, I think, 17 minutes from 12 o'clock, from midnight. Midnight is doomsday strikes. And it's been pushed back 7 times and pushed forward some 17 times. And what we have now is, last year it had moved 20 seconds, 10 seconds I'm told, and was 90 seconds away from midnight. And this year, thankfully, fortunately, it has stayed at 90 seconds. So that's why the reason of a conference like this, wherein, minds can meet and see what the other party needs, and can we make things in a more sustainable manner? Can we make things so that instead of 90 seconds, it goes back to 190 seconds, and probably, 2 minute 90 seconds? How can we, give back to the earth? I'll also use one line. I actually got it from my daughter. If we don't take care of this earth today, to anarth ho jayega. Okay. Now, starting with that, we'll start with the first line of question, which is essentially, okay, what are the challenges in environmental sustainability in rural India?
Yeah, so what I'll do is, I will answer that question and share my thoughts, but limit it to agriculture. When you say rural India, there are various aspects of sustainability pertaining to water, environment, etc., etc.
True.
But I'll take agriculture, and the reason I will do that is, agriculture is a way of life. More than 90% of our farmers are smallholders. For them, it's a way of life. So I will answer that question from the agricultural perspective. So challenges relating to sustainability in rural India is multiple. I will sort of highlight 5 of them or 4 of them. It starts with overuse of chemicals, number 1. Number 2, deforestation. Number 3, biodiversity erosion. Number 4, gender inequality. And number 5 would be lack of access to resources, including credit. These are the 5 challenges. And sustainability is a multi-dimensional, I would say, phenomena, right? Not even a concept. So, and rural India is as complex as it can get. as diverse as it can get, for the simple reason that we have more than 6.5 lakh villages in our country today, and there are more than 750 districts in the country. From sugarcane to saffron, from cotton to coconut, everything can be grown and cultivated in India. It's quite a different matter that it's not sustainable because of various reasons. So I will pause at this, and maybe Ram can also reflect on the same question.
Sure.
Yeah, I think, especially in a rural context, sustainability boils down to livelihoods. So how do you create, especially in a country like India, you have a large, people who are self-employed, and they are, and we also, largely, focused on farming, and in this, you'll see across the sectors, right? Be it farming, be it artisans, be it micro entrepreneurs, self-employed. And the common thread across all of these is credit access. And in our experience, what we've seen is lack of credit can make their livelihoods.
Can I also add credit at the right kind of costing? Because what kind of credit is available has a huge cost attached to it, right? Huge interest rates.
Yeah, I think, so there are two things. I think there's also this misconception when it comes to credit, saying that it's, it's high, but most of the time, the challenge is the access itself is, it's not there, right? So given that, so Nandan Nilekani once famously said, India is not only a poor country, we are a data poor country as well, right? So how do you therefore lend money to communities who don't have data? So at Rangdi, we've taken a very unconventional approach, which is to work with partners on the ground, and we underwrite the risk by leveraging the social capital which our partners enjoy with the communities. So in our experience, what we've seen is we are able to enable sustainability at scale by providing the communities just in time access to credit, which is beautifully aligned with their own cash flows. Right. So the result is that they don't even realize that they've actually borrowed.
It's painless.
Yeah, because they see that, they were given the credit right at the time when they were, perhaps,
Needed at that time.
during the input season, and then when the post-harvest, that's when they're expected to repay. So that's where we see a massive impact of credit, which is enabling sustainable livelihoods.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll share an example. We've invested in an agri company. So he went to his village after a few years, after completing his studies, and he saw the fields are empty. And when he asked what's happening, he said, it is not only capital, but even access to a tractor or a sower or a plower or even seeds for that matter. Timely, you're not getting them. You ask for seeds today, you'll get it a week later. By that time, the sowing season is over. Okay, or the yield that you'll get is far lesser. So I think, do you think also, apart from tech trickling down over there, do you think there's a need of reverse brain drain of, people who have achieved something in life? They have to come back to these villages and, help these people out through various means by say, digitizing the supply chain over there in the rural side,
yeah,
and other kind of thing?
So there are two aspects to this. One is we need to stem the rural-urban migration. You need to arrest it first, because our urban infrastructure is bursting at its seams, right? So, number one. Actually, the biggest tragedy, human tragedy in this century, COVID-19, also had an upside. Some techies, for example, as an example, so-called techies, our last panel had quite a few of them.
Yeah.
Some of those kind of tribe, if you will, did come back to their farmhouse weekend farmhouse, or their parents, brothers, 10 acres, 5 acres. But then that was a blip, right? So it's not easy. Agriculture is not easy. Some of them have been successful. Most of them have burned their hands. Most of them are my friends, by the way. So larger question is, rather than getting urban folks back to rural India, I want rural youth to become self-employed, and become job givers. I want, see, the biggest tragedy or biggest crisis that is already upon us and will become amplified 1,000,000 times over is labor scarcity, among others.
True.
I am seeing, when I spend in a month 3 days in a village randomly picked up in India, wherever. I throw a dart there's a map in the house, I go there. The thing is, I see farmers, 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, they are the ones, most of them, I'm saying, most of them, 99% of them, working in their farm. Their young children, educated, uneducated, nobody wants to do work at farm.
No
Now,
one.
this is a looming crisis, but there are solutions also. And I'll just touch upon this and then we can go to the next query. So there's a wave of farm automation and mechanization happening as we speak. Right from the drones as the highest denominator on example to small battery operated sprayers, for example. Yeah, you have all kinds of automation. Again, affordable, accessible. It's not that one has to go and buy a drone for 5 lakh, 7 lakh rupees. No, you can lease it and hire it for 300 rupees an hour. Yeah, that's easily affordable, and it is logistically operable also. So I think my endeavor, or the state government, because agriculture is a state subject, center can only do so much. Actually, the implementation should happen at the Gram Panchayat level, right? And then the Tehsil level, Zilla level, then the district level, then the state level, then the center. So therefore, I think implementation of such policies to arrest rural-urban migration should happen, and that can only happen if somehow leveraging data, technology, policy, etc., including affordable, accessible credit, if you can ensure that out of 365 days, if you can provide meaningful employment to the young youth of India, rural India, 300 out of 365 days, I believe that they will stop migrating to urban areas for 10,000 rupees, 15,000 rupees a month. True. For gig job economy, right? So that's my response.
Thank you. Ramji, what would be your response to this? And like, do you think both go hand in hand? Your credit enhancement for the people in rural areas, will that help check the brain drain from villages to urban cities or abroad?
Yeah, so I think, I just want to talk about, credit from a lens of inclusion, right? So we talk about, financial inclusion. Yeah. And so credit is only a small part of financial inclusion, right? The larger part also is their ability to access a bank account. Now, we all know that there was this massive campaign by the government of India where we opened the Jan Dhan bank accounts. But if you look at the data, I don't need to tell this, but the amount of money which is actually transacted in these accounts is abysmally low. And the reason for that is there is this thing called KICO, CICO, and it stands for cash in and cash out. So if you have a bank account where you can't cash in and cash out at will, it's as good as not having that account.
It will remain empty.
It will remain empty. So I think one of the opportunities I think we have as a country is that every post office in India has now become a bank.
True.
And it's called the India Post Payments Bank. So I think one of the things we should really look at is to see if we could make this post office bank, which is right there in the community at the last mile, can we make it more accessible for the communities? And then on top of that, see if we could, start providing them credit. So Rangdi is one of the options, but tomorrow, thanks to OCEN, Open Credit Enablement Network, and Account Aggregator, we'll be able to lend money to even communities who don't have any credit score, because now we will have access to their cash flow data in their bank accounts.
True.
So I think that's that's the way forward as a country, because we need to really solve this problem at population scale. And I think that's where I think not only Rangdi would be able to play a role, but also the other banks in India, they would also now be able to underwrite using data.
Using data, that is.
Yeah, even if somebody's never borrowed before, they will now be able to borrow just with their cash flow data.
A follow-up question to that. ONDC, a lot is being said around that, And how do you see that playing around in your thesis? Is it really going to be helping? Do you think some of your craftsmen who were there, who you worked with earlier, could actually benefit from this ONDC phenomena? Or is this just a hype?
No, I think it's too early to really, comment on that, because it needs to get seeded as we speak, because
it has to percolate now.
It's essentially a network effect. So if everybody, gets onto the platform, and also it also comes down to the user experience. Right. So if my experience is not good, then I would not go back to a ONDC marketplace.
If I can add to that.
Yes, please.
I think ONDC, branded as mystore.in, potentially is a game changer. But like Ram, it's a bit early in the day. We have to create awareness, then adoption. But I think it's going to give a run to Amazon.in. I can see it in next 2 years. I'll draw an analogy. It is akin to what UPA was 3 years back. Nobody thought that it would become so big, so huge.
That we don't need Visa or MasterCard anymore.
ONDC is an e-commerce platform which has payment solution embedded in it. Yeah. It is Amazon.in by Government of India. So, it can get as big as you can imagine, provided there's awareness, adoption, etc., etc.
I'll just share something on this. I'm like, in this race, if you call it a race, we are far ahead of the developed world, because my daughter is in Germany and she says, Dad, no one takes a card over there. You have to carry cash around. And if you're not carrying cash, you've had it, because you can't do anything. Okay. And so coming back to this thing, I think we were hearing from our August panelist in the previous one, who's from Princeton, University. He said that Indians by default have a lot of, inherent recycling, repurposing, reusing and kind of thing. And even in our farming practices, earlier if you see, we've been using a lot of organic kind of stuff, We've used cow manure and all that kind of thing for ages. Do you think some of these practices have to be brought back? And is that happening? Should that be happening? Or how do we go to those kind of things? And move from things like allopathy to Ayurvedic things, even for the cattle or for your, this kind of thing.
So I can say there's no textbookish answer, there is no real world answer. The way I would look at it, Manish, is one has to be practical and pragmatic. When I say pragmatic, 90% of our farmers are smallholders, i.e. 2 acres, 3 acres. We cannot preach to the smallholder that, hey, look, put a gun to his head or her head, literally, and say, switch on from inorganic to organic. It's tough. On the ground, it's tough. Unless you provide a system of incentives and a strong policy framework. But it's not the question of whether we need it or not. I would look at it from 2 prisms, 2 lenses. One is the producer cultivator, the other is consumers, we, right? Both need organic inputs and organic outputs. When I say inputs, biologicals, growth promoters, biopesticides, biofertilizers, etc., etc. At the same time, the consumers today are willing to pay, at least I know one segment, which is 1 crore out of 150 crores, has the wherewithal, has the disposable income to pay 2x for organic products. I don't want to get into a controversial subject. I know how organic is organic. All I know is it is less, this is less poisonous than that, right? That's what it is. So it's not a question whether we need, both as a consumer, we need the choice. And as a farmer, I need to do because it's for the sake of sustainability. At the end of the day, we have already poisoned our groundwater aquifers. We have already poisoned our soil. So therefore, somewhere we have to leave something for the next generations to come. We have to save the planet. So there is some element of inevitability, but it's not going to happen like a switch. If not, we'll become like Sri Lanka. What happened 6 months back, let's not forget. Human memory is short. It takes 2 to 3 years to switch a minimum from non-chemical to chemical to non-chemical farming. It's not easy. So, so there are challenges. But once you do that, productivity improves, the quality of the produce improves, everybody is happy. But the key thing is market access also. How do you provide large-scale market access to small farmers who are switching to organic? And who's going to compensate 2.5, 3 years of income loss? They're in no position to take that loss. So these are some very vexed issues, but there are solutions. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, I can share a little bit about this because, we have the privilege of working with a wonderful social enterprise based in Bangalore called Akshay Kalpa. It's in India's first organic milk supply chain now. Now it's hard, right, to build a value chain which is organic and sustainable for the communities.
Exactly.
It's hard, right? So Shashi, who's the founder, now he spent 4 years to figure out what the fodder should be.
Wow.
Right? So because a lot of trials, a lot of experiments, and then he figured out, he did with Azola and so many other combinations, and then finally figured out that the local, whatever was available, that was the best. But it had to be treated in a certain way. The composition was very important and all of that. And now Akshay Kalpa is India's leading, organic dairy company. And I think what we have done to enable that is provide them credit. And even though Shashi could have set up a corporate farm, he chose to do, just the opposite. He actually chose deliberately to work with small and marginal farmers.
Small and marginal farmers.
And create a beautiful design. I think sometimes, we underestimate the power of design. Right? So he's come up with this beautiful design. It's a design for a farm, a dairy farm, which can be run by a husband and wife team. So just a couple.
Yeah.
And they can run a farm which can accommodate 25 cows. So they can start with 1 cow, and as this...
And it is modular.
Yeah, it's just modular.
Okay, and without getting all those, say antibiotics and all those kind of things.
Absolutely not. And it's what you get is, a great value for your product and a great health, and it's also, it's great for the environment. So I think it's a beautiful model.
Would love introductions.
Yeah. So just want to share that with you as an example. And also they are able to create a biogas along with because they get a lot of cow dung, create slurry. It creates a great, sustainable fertilizer for the farm, and
Great.
so it's fantastic.
Awesome. So thanks so much for this very interesting kind of thing. I'm like, we've invested in say one venture which does a similar thing on the farmer side, but then, so like as he rightly said. So like someone said, a village goes into making a child grow. On the flip side, a lot of us who've come from that village are required to make hundreds of villages grow. And if we all don't contribute to it, then we are not there. And I'm like, you need some folks who take that step, that, okay, I have an offer from Tokyo, from Seoul, or from, say, Milan or somewhere, but I'll go back to my village and maybe make things better over there. Coming to the last point, we are still in the first month, New Year's. Any resolutions or anything that you've set out to do?
No, I thought the the question was more to do with, are we going to take some concrete steps in sustainability? I thought that was the question.
Yeah,
or
around
not?
that.
Around that, yeah.
True.
So I think I would like to answer that point. So to Ram's point, I have designed an intervention program with the Union Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, along with a non-for-profit, to make the lives of Safai Karmacharis better using existing schemes and etc. etc. So that's my, you can call it New Year resolution or design.
Great. On your side?
Yeah, so what we're doing is we're experimenting at several. There are two projects which I'm very personally passionate about. One is to see if we could provide credit to migrant workers who are very vulnerable when it comes to accessing credit. So that's something which we're trying to do in this new year, and also very excited about setting up a community tourism project, which is truly.
I know that.
Yeah, we're also looking at setting up sustainable community tourism projects in
Awesome.
in Gujarat, in the Northeast, which would allow the community members to host and give a great alternative to traditional accommodation options they may have.